But with the IDF continuing to bombard Gaza, is peace realistic? Former Israeli politician turned tech entrepreneur Erel Margalit believes that Israel's security concerns can be resolved. And he joins me now. Erel, welcome back to the program. You know, the last time you and I spoke, this was a different, what many viewed as an existential threat and crisis to Israel, and that was the judicial reforms and the attempts to block it for months on end. And now here the country is facing its worst and most challenging war since its founding, really, in terms of the casualty lost. You heard the conversation there with Dylan. There's virtually no place in the near immediate region there that hasn't been touched by just the death toll and the tragedy of this all. Give us a sense from your perspective on what can be done to move things forward and what happens next.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. And just anecdotally, you know, we have a big food tech and ag tech center in Kiryat Shmona, which is the city on the other side of the border from where the journalist was being hit. And what I can tell you that on the northern border, before we come into Gaza, Israel had no quarrel on the northern border. Hezbollah, which was supposed to be 29 kilometers north of that, according to UN Resolution 1701, beyond the Litani River, is now sitting on the border, threatening Israel. And I can assure, I don't know the details of the event, but I can assure you that Israel has no interest whatsoever to hit journalists, and that Israeli civilians had to be evacuated for the northern border. Our hub, 173 startups had to be evacuated from the northern border because Hezbollah is on the border, and Hezbollah is pressing Israel all the time. Israel needs to protect itself. Now,
yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you also, though, are calling for a paradigm shift in how
yes.
Israel approaches its security. There's a lot of blame, I know, coming externally, but also internally, for how Netanyahu had miscalculated Hamas's intentions and thought that he could work with the organization if they focused and came to terms with some sort of economic policy. That clearly did not happen. So what is this paradigm shift that you're laying out?
So in 2014, I was in the Security and Foreign Affairs Committee. I was before that in Special Forces in Israel, and we had a big debate. And some of us thought that Hamas should be taken out, and Netanyahu and some of his government thought that Hamas should be dealt with by giving them money and trying to see whether we can calm them down. So the paradigm shift on security is that you cannot live next to a terror-run state like Hamas. Hamas will never be a partner where we can live next to. And what Israel's doing in Gaza right now, and you know, we now have a consensus in Israel that Hamas needs to be taken out. And the UN needs to understand that. If there's going to be any hope for the people of Gaza, if any reconstruction is going to be there for life and not for death, Hamas needs to be removed, and a different coalition that includes Arab states that now Israel has relationship with, like Egypt, like the UAE, like Saudi Arabia, like Bahrain, like many others, need to stand up and together with the Palestinian administration take control of Gaza and start building Gaza for life and not for death. Because in the last year alone, $2.5 billion that were transferred to Hamas in Gaza were used to build a 500-kilometer terror tunnel that they're not going to stop using unless they are removed. And I understand it's painful, but it's a necessary process.
You know, from reporting, all indications suggest that behind closed doors, those regional Arab neighbors and leaders are also in favor of getting rid of Hamas. The hard part is how, aside from just eliminating the leadership and thousands of their terrorists and fighters, the ideology is so deeply ingrained and has been for decades. Their popularity has only increased now, we know, in the West Bank. Even if the PA is allowed to come in on the day after, and that's a big if because, you know, Netanyahu's saying that's not going to happen. The Palestinian officials, the PA officials just today said that they would have to work with Hamas. So how does your plan actually bear any fruit, given the difficulties that it takes to get rid of Hamas, all in all?
Yeah, but I want to put things in perspective. You know, we, JVP, the fund that I manage, a lot of what we're doing is actually the heart of what we're doing is in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, every day we cooperate with Palestinians. In the West Bank, every day we cooperate with Palestinians. Of course, you report of the extremists, but there's many moderate Palestinians that we cooperate with. So what is our goal? Our goal, that the moderation that many of us see in the day-to-day cooperation, doesn't mean that we agree about everything. Israel's had a cooperation on the security front with the Palestinian Authority for the last 30 years, even when we didn't agree on all issues. The Palestinian Authority in its new form, in the form that is not corrupt, was supporting by the Egyptians, supporting by the UAE, which is ready to put the money where their mouth is, supporting by the Saudis, by Bahrain, needs to stand up and start to take control of the administration. And that's where Israel needs to work with the U.S., with Europe, with NATO, with the other countries as well, about coordinating that process. And the one thing that we are saying, yes, we're going to continue to fight in the tunnels, on the ground, over the air, but we also need to use the diplomatic hand. The diplomatic hand was that allowed us to take Arafat out of Beirut in 1982 when we fought the PLO on the street. The diplomatic hand needs to be the one that takes responsibility from Gaza away from Hamas and into an administration which will be responsible, which will build school for the people, which will build places for the people and not an underground terror tunnel that if that's going to be built again, Israel is not going to accept it. It will go back in there. And therefore, I'm telling the UN, I'm telling all the different organizations, if you want to bring security to the region, you need to understand that just like as you removed ISIS, you removed Al-Qaeda, you need to remove Hezbollah, you need to remove Hamas from Gaza. Because if Hamas stays in Gaza, the war will come back again. And there's nothing like Israeli citizens, the one that were massacred on October 7th in the kibbutzim, in the moshavim, in the cities, are those citizens that actually cared the most about the Palestinians. They were the ones that opened the gates on Erez, Shar Erez, to allow 30,000 Palestinians to come to work in Israel. But we understand that all that cannot continue to happen when Hamas is in power. Hamas will be taken out, and then the Palestinians could begin to have a future. Israel will support that, but Israel requests and demands moderation and not a terror of death. We want a country, a place which will build life. If people want to live next to us, we will give them a hand. If people will try to kill us, we will come after them.
Erel, no serious person or objective person would disagree with what you just laid out. But in that, the partner in hand now for the vision that you've laid out for a new, less corrupt, new generation of PA leadership, is the co-partner for that, in your view, Netanyahu? Is he capable of that?
Netanyahu is our chosen prime minister. It's not a secret that I come from the other side of the political spectrum, and I had many criticism of Netanyahu when I was in politics and outside of politics. I don't have the same views as Netanyahu, but even Netanyahu or any other Israeli prime minister needs to see that there's another administration there in Gaza. Now, where I would expect Israel to work with the U.S. in order to promote that is to start promoting a vision of the day after in terms of who takes control. Who takes control of the people, who takes control of the administration, who makes sure that the money doesn't go back to building underground tunnels and buying missiles, but begins to build housing. And that is something which is delicate. It's not easy. It needs a new chapter, not only in the region, it needs a new chapter in Israel as well. Because Israel in the region has, economically, we've been working with the Arab states. It's time that the politicians understands what we're doing on the high-tech and the economy. We're building an alliance. We need to build one with responsible people, with the support of Arab countries in Gaza. That will give us the base to build the Middle East into the next level, the next region. It takes courage. It takes
Yeah, it
a
does.
military courage, but it also takes brains and diplomacy.
Erel Margalit, thank you so much for
Thank you so
joining
much.
us. It's good to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you and happy Hanukkah from
Thank you. Happy
Jerusalem and
Hanukkah to
wherever
you as
are.
well.
Thank you.
Thank you.